Are we on?
Are we on?
Are we on?
Can you hear us?
Yes?
Hello. Hello.
Damian Lewis from David Harewood.
That's Damian.
David Harewood, MBE.
MBE, yes.
Welcome to Bafta. How does that feel? How does that feel?
It feels great. I'm very proud of it, actually. Very, very proud. Yeah. Very proud.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am to do this as a television critic. I think that Homeland is one of the strongest things that's come through for a long time, and I watched all 12 episodes over Christmas, which went down really well with my family. Probably should have been paying them some attention.
Was anyone else watching?
No, it's just me in that bedroom pretending to have stomach aches. This is really bad, isn't it? Sorry.
Was that for me?
It's for me, actually. You can have it. Okay. I think it's the fact that it's British actors that are playing the lead roles in this. It makes me very proud, and the fact that it's apparently Barack Obama's favourite television program. Did you hear this?
Yeah, we did. There was an op-ed column written about it, pointed out in the New York Times, where it cross-referenced this with Obama's foreign policy. So it's exciting when you've entered the cultural zeitgeist in such a way. It's been very exciting.
Apparently he's called in 4 sets of DVD.
Yeah, we heard.
I don't know what he did with the first 3. eBay.
To the girls.
I'm not quite sure.
All the state
the
departments
Clintons,
calling up and asking.
The Clintons now. The Clintons are very. You know, they're kind of watching it. Apparently, it's gone right through the kind of top levels of the American administration. Everybody's kind of asking for box sets because they
know what their boss is watching.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to try not to spoiler 12 episodes for everybody else. So we're going to try not to go by what's been said there.
We've all been seeing it anyway.
And also, and then we'll go to some question and answer. Have we got roving Mike? Hello. So we'll do some questions.
You're now known as
Roving Mike. Homeland was adapted from Gideon Raff's 2009 Israeli prisoner of war drama called Harewood. It was adapted by the executive producers Harewood and Alex Ganser. They previously worked on 24, so it's kind of a strong pedigree of espionage thriller. They also worked on Beauty and the Beast, but we'll move on from that. Can I ask you about your memories, just of getting the scripts for the first time? Was there a gut instinct? This was good? Or was it just a day like any other day?
No, it's always exciting. You get a call from your agent, my lovely agent, Alex. They say we're sending you a script, and you get excited, and then you read it, and you go, how disappointing. It wasn't the case with this. It was fantastic, and I was working in Manchester in the snow. These things always seem to happen just before Christmas Eve. They call you on the 23rd, and then you have to give them an answer by lunchtime on the 24th before everyone goes home for 10 days. So it's always a slightly fraught time. It was very exciting. It clearly was ambitious just in the first hour, as you can see, and it was unusual in that it set itself up as a thriller, and there's a page turner left at the end there, as he's left there staring at the White House. But what struck me was what they challenged thematically, what they took on just in an hour's worth of TV. Incredibly dense, both in incident and character, and it's something we don't see often here.
I've been auditioning for American dramas now for a couple of years. My wonderful agent got theirs and sending me stuff, and because of the kind of global nature of the industry now, you just basically stick a video camera on your bedroom and talk to it and edit it and send it off on the internet, and you just forget about it because you just think you've got no chance of getting any of these things. And I basically did the same thing. I was doing a play at the National, and I got these 14 pages, 5 scenes through to kind of learn. And I thought, I'm not going to learn this. It's just I've got no chance. So I kind of just kind of familiarised myself with it and just basically pressed record. My other half kind of read the other lines, and I just read it and looked up, read it, edited it, sent it off, and just forgot all about it. And then about 2 months later, I got this phone call from my manager in New York saying, "You are that close to getting it." And it was just, it all happened very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Within a space of about 3 days, I had Alex Ganser, the producer of 24, ringing me on my mobile phone, and it was just completely nuts. And
You have to have a black man and a redhead. Showtime. So they had to wait to see if I was going to take it first.
Exactly. British black man and redhead. And literally, then there was this whole crazy thing of getting the visas, and we had to go to Belfast to get our visas, and then I didn't get my visa through until 2 days before I flew out to start the job. And then I realised when I got there that I hadn't done any work on the script. I hadn't done any work on my character. And I hadn't practiced this accent. I hadn't done anything. It was extraordinary. So it's quite difficult to watch for me watching that pilot, because I can just hear this clanking accent thinking,
oh, it's a very good accent, isn't it? Very good accent.
but I think as you see throughout the series, I get much more comfortable. But that was literally a stab in the dark. It was like, well, I better just go for it.
And when did you hear that Claire Danes had joined the cast?
Daisy was on. She was in first, actually, because I think they always had it in mind to go to her. So they had Claire and Mandy. Mandy's a man, by the way. Claire and Mandy, and that was it. And then I'm not going to tell you who it was because it's unfair on her, and it wasn't because she was bad, but there was a bit of a tussle over who would be cast as my wife. And actually, there was a Scottish actress who was originally cast as my wife, and she was already there. And there was just a bit of a tussle as to whether she was right, but she was fantastic in the pilot, but she just couldn't convince the execs that that's who that character should be. So we, in fact, reshot a lot of that and came back and did 3 more weeks shooting on that pilot to fill in all the bits with Morena. Anyway, but Daisy was there up front.
I was just going to talk about 2 of the other big members of the cast. So you've got Claire Danes, and she's playing she's a leading woman with a mental health issue. I mean, how do you think that?
She does it very funny.
How do you think that adds to the whole script, the whole makeup? The fact that we've got somebody who.
I think it gives it a real layer.
It's not depression. It's not.
It's bipolar. It's a bipolar issue, and the writer's sister is actually bipolar.
Right.
One of the writer's sisters is bipolar. She wrote this huge piece in the New York Times saying how it had really opened the door for people to kind of discuss the condition.
Yeah.
It's one of the few characters on the screen that has this, that is prepared to kind of show what it's like to be kind of, I think, mentally unstable, but to have this condition. And she was saying it was about time that somebody had done that and represented the people that had that condition. She did it very well.
It's a brave thing to attempt to insert a bipolar disorder into the heart of a thriller, a paranoid thriller. It could very easily seem like a gimmick, and of course it very conveniently allows us to judge her, wonder whether she's actually suffering from bouts of insanity, and whether we should believe her or whether we believe Brody. But I think it works, and they deal with it sensitively. And as you see the series develop, you'll see that they don't shirk away from it. They embrace it, and they engage with the illness. So I think it's well done.
I was just going to say a quick word about Mandy Patinkin's soul. I just think that his performance all the way through it is so wonderful. He's a rock, but he's kind of got this. He's just very deeply measured in the way that he behaves all the way through. What's he like to work with?
He's really, really lovely. I mean, I have to say that this is, yourself included, I mean, this is the best company of actors I've ever worked with, without a doubt. And that there were days when I would literally just go in just to watch, because they're all fantastic. And I learn an awful lot just watching these guys do their craft. I mean, particularly Mandy. I mean, Mandy would do one take one way, and then the next take it would be completely different, but still
he toured with Paddy LaPern and they trot out old show tunes, classics, which is
It's
his first love. It's his first love, and you never see someone happier up on stage and on Broadway.
Amazing.
He was the first Che Guevara in Evita.
He's in Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, yes.
First thing I said to him.
Yeah, what did you say?
Well, my name is Ina Gomez. Because my father prepared to die. It's the first thing I said to him. I wanted to grab his wallet.
Did you think, don't say it, don't say it?
Yeah, going to say it. He was very generous.
Why do you think that America has taken to this very un-American concept of a traitor within? Why are they, I mean, you were talking before about something that reacted badly to it, so that America would like it. We were talking upstairs.
Yeah, well, we film it down in the south. It's interesting filming in the south, surrounded by army bases and army families. So it's, if anywhere, it's going to be contentious. It'll be down there because it's certainly a left of centre view of the current. Politically, it's left of centre. I think after 24, wasn't it? It was that had allegations of being Republican, didn't it? The New Yorker published an article saying they thought it was all a bit sort of a muscular, macho response to the 9/11 attacks. What's interesting is 9/11. None of us were expecting that to happen. The CIA knew all about it and failed to prevent it. Now we all know much more, and there's an even greater degree of uncertainty and paranoia, anxiety. There's a greater degree of uncertainty about the way our own governments have acted, and this show is reflective of where we are now, 10 years later.
I think certainly when we shot that pilot, Bin Laden hadn't been captured, killed. I think between this and the first episode, he was, and they rewrote a line because we had to reshoot stuff that Lorena was in. They rewrote a line which said Bin Laden is dead, and I think that sort of bookended the whole 10 years from 9/11 to Bin Laden's death, and I think it kind of closed a chapter in American history and allowed America to kind of, I say relax, but to allow them to look back and actually look at what they've done in the last 10 years, allowed them to reflect on what they've done in the last 10 years, whether they were correct to go into Iraq, whether they were correct to go into Afghanistan. It gave them a distance, and I think if Bin Laden hadn't have died, I think it might have, those questions still would linger, but I think his death kind of bookended this period and allowed them to kind of have a look at it, discuss it.
Can I ask about torture? Can I ask about torture days on set? I think that, with Brody, we've seen flashbacks. We're taken to some pretty dark places, dark memories, and these ideas of inhumanity against him. And that's quite unpalatable truth, I suppose, for a lot of Americans watching it, but this is what is going on. Just tell me about torture days on set.
Torture days?
Torture days, days of torture.
They're usually flipping cold because you're naked or something. Torture days, well, they're distressing. There's actually something that was cut here with a screwdriver screwed into my shoulder. But it was, people are all very sensitive, and guys rig various hanging ropes that shot me hanging there, and everyone turns away in a very discreet way, and you just get on with it. And
where does it leave you after?
It's needing a beer, mostly. I don't take my work home with me. I'm not a method actor. I research it fully, engage fully in my imagination and in the imagined world that we all create together. And I'm very happy to live there, between the hours that I'm on set, and then I forget all about it. Probably too easily. I have to rev myself up quite a lot for the next morning. But they're always treated sensitively. And, there's a lot of technique to pulling punches, so it looks like you're hitting someone and you're not actually hitting them. Camera angles help you with that. The technique of pulling a punch, but or seeming as though you're giving it full force is a technique
terrorism centre in the agency's history. I was going to say, there's always this kind of quiet anger about you all the time in every scene that you're in.
It's very repressed.
Why are you furious? What are you furious about?
I think he's furious for a couple of reasons. One, that Carrie, who you might gather from the pilot, we had an affair 3 years ago, and she comes into that kind of debriefing room, and she assumes the position of authority, and it's always in the series as a whole. I think she's always assuming the position of the boss, and I think that grates with Estes. I don't think he likes that. Personally, I think that it was. I felt very. It was a strange period for me because I didn't quite know who the character was right up until I think you've seen the series, but right up until episode 11 and 12. Until episode 11 and 12, I didn't really feel as though I was playing with a full deck, because Estes doesn't reveal himself as a character until the very end. So I kept thinking, why is this? I always felt like I was not quite there or not quite nailing it. It was a very unsatisfactory kind of position to be in, because I never felt completely comfortable. Plus, also I was doing this accent, and it was a very kind of
Should have been American.
Yeah, I sounded like it was Pakistani half the time. I really did. I was continually convinced that I wasn't doing the job. I never felt comfortable. And then I got this great note, I think in episode 4. One of the directors gave me a great note, and I kind of built on that. And
What did it say?
Well, he just basically said that I don't ever want to see what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I really that was great for me, because then I didn't have to prove what I was doing. I just had to basically keep a blank page. And, but I kind of built something behind that this guy just didn't want to reveal himself, or didn't want anybody to kind of see in the window, see in the glass, as it were. And that gave me a bit of strength. But then when my character finally reveals himself at the end, I really felt like I finally found out who this guy was. So I'm really looking forward to season 2, because I feel much more confident with the character, much more confident with the voice, and just generally as an actor, I just feel a lot more secure, because I have to say, for large parts of that first series, I kind of wasn't. But I think that was partly
You'll never feel secure as an actor.
No, but as a character, I often feel secure as a character, but this time with this character I didn't, because I just didn't know who he was.
An interesting point, isn't it, about long-form drama, which is often they have an arc, the writers have an arc in their minds, but they don't have the details fleshed out. And often writers, they write to actors' strengths, and if they fall in love with actors or performances midway through the season, they go off down these little tributaries, the side alleys. They go off for 2 or 3 episodes. You have a little 2 or 3 episode arc of a story before they bring it back to the main highway, thinking we must address the central story. But that happens. It's a lot of spontaneity, more than you would imagine. And I was able to ask them at the beginning of the series for the fundamentals, but there's also, because of course that's what you hang the hook of your character. You must have something to hang it on, and. But at the same time, the joy of long-form drama like this is, and it's something that David Simon said before, the writer of The Wire, is its novelistic approach. And it's fun getting an episode each week and reading it before we turn the lights out, like reading the next chapter in a favourite novel. And it's fun to have surprises, and you're always being surprised by other storylines that you're not engaged with, and it keeps it fresh and interesting. So there are those moments for everybody where think, well, I'm playing one thing, but God knows if I'm going in the right direction, because it might be something entirely different in the next hour.
Yeah. Can we talk about British actors in America? Do you think there's a sense that you need to go there now and kind of sweat it out and do these series to come back and then suddenly be declared a national treasure?
Well, for me, definitely. I think unfortunately, there really aren't that many roles for kind of authoritative, strong black characters in this country. We just don't like those characters. That's a fact. So a lot of my contemporaries are going to America. I kind of thought I'd missed the boat. Idris Elba talks. I can remember talking to Idris years ago. illustrations, and he told me, I'll go to America. And I kind of thought, well, what are you doing that for? Look at him now. You know, he's kind of a huge star, so he made the right decision to go where he did. And now he kind of comes back, and BBC getting Luther, and it's.
He didn't come. He waited tables and all that.
He waited. Yeah, I mean, it took him a long time to crack it.
Yeah. But
he cracks it, and then and now he can say he can come back, and as you say, he's a national treasure. So for me, that's kind of what I knew I kind of needed to do, because I simply wouldn't. I simply wouldn't have been given a role of that weight of authority here in the UK. That's just a fact.
No, I think we're incredibly lucky. If you're lucky enough to have a credible American accent, you can work in two worlds. You get to work over there, and you get to work here. And the Americans, on the whole, don't. You know, they live in LA, they set up shop there, and they take what comes, and it's mostly not very good TV. We see the cream on the top here, just as they see our cream over there. There's good stuff and bad stuff made in both places. I don't think you have to go there and sweat anything out at all. I just think it's appealing to when you get offered great roles, so you take them.
Are you television fans?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
What role recently on TV do you wish that you got?
Don Draper. Got that little bit of a man crush on.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's nothing that's really leap out for me. I'm trying to do something a little different, I suppose. Yeah, that's right. I love playing characters, and there's not that many. I've done a lot of stuff on stage, and that I kind of like to replicate that same variety on the screen. Things like Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, they were great roles. They're very few and far between for us. So if this gives me anything, I hope it opens a few doors for me to be able to just play a lot more different, different characters.
Do you think that there's a very simple answer, or is it very complex? Is there a simple answer why we don't have in Britain these kind of programs coming through? That why something of that strength that's 12 episodes. Is there a reason why we're not doing that?
Firstly, is there anyone in here that might be able to give me a job? Okay, good. The problem here is there are different traditions. Again, film writing is in the American DNA. It's deep seated in it, and it's not here in the English tradition. We have a theatrical tradition. We have people who started in theatre, transferred their talents into TV. TV is still, although as we can see from this, perhaps no longer, but traditionally has been talking heads. So it's a bit like writing plays for the camera, and we haven't yet quite, I think, in my view, across the board. Of course, we have fantastic writers here. We don't, but it's not as deep-seated in our DNA.
Yeah.
I think also there's just a massive imbalance, which nobody here can be blamed for, which is that their development process goes through to spending $5 million, $6, $7 million on a pilot.
Yeah.
So they develop a script, then they film it, then they decide they're not going to film a series. So that's $7 million later, plus what they've already paid the writer. Here we just don't have those resources. So you have to make decisions earlier, you pull the plug earlier, and there's just less of a luxury to play around for as long as they are able to.
Thanks, how do you feel?
I don't know, mate. I don't want to trash this place, but I do think perhaps there is a certain lack of ambition in terms of telling a global story. It's quite parochial, I think, sometimes. That's all I can say. I don't think it's as ambitious. I think sitting down watching the best of American TV it is risk-taking, and I do think there is something to be said for having like the cable channels, and having a network channel. I mean, I think we've now got. I think Sky are now kind of starting to enter the kind of fray as a kind of production, a broadcaster, and I think that's a really good thing, because perhaps they can start developing homegrown big event television that is perhaps a little bit more ambitious than, say, ITV or BBC could be because of advertising, or specifically ITV because of advertising. And I think hopefully Sky can kind of start to kind of create a niche that is just something different, I think.
And channel form.
And channel.
Good.
As we're at Bafta, have you just got one piece of advice for young actors that are here? If you could speak to your 24-year-old self, what would you say?
Stop drinking. I would encourage, particularly young black actors to get to America, or to at least try and have that ambition in your back pocket, because they do seem to embrace a more diverse palette, and I think that's sad, but that's just the fact. So I would encourage people to get there as quickly as they can.
I think just don't make the mistake of thinking you might just try your hand at acting. If it's a vocation, if it feels vocational, if you're passionate about it, you can't imagine doing something else, then do it. But otherwise, don't.
What's the worst mistake you've made?
Made several.
Turning left out of my bedroom one night instead of right to the bathroom, opening the front door and peeing on the street, totally naked. And then waking up in the morning and thinking, I had an old dream about peeing on the street.
Did anyone see you?
No.
I don't think they're honest. I think each mistake leads to something else. I think in our profession, I think you've got to make mistakes. I think there should be I don't think it's a crime to make a mistake, because it's all a learning process. And it's taken me 25 years to get to this point, and I've made a lot of mistakes. But hopefully I'm kind of, having made all those mistakes, I've kind of finally arrived at a place where I can really execute now. And I'm kind of looking forward to the next couple of years. It's a very exciting time for me now. So I would say that making mistakes, be proud of them.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Q&A and let these lot loose on you very quickly. I was going to say just very quickly about the Golden Globe nominations and the awards that you've won. As an actor, do they matter?
No, they're meaningless. If I'd won, might have said something different. No, Kenneth Branagh said the best thing about awards is that they're simultaneously hugely important and utterly meaningless, and that sums it up, I think, perfectly.
Give me an enduring memory from Golden Globes now that you've just been at.
Meeting Sidney Poitier was huge. I saw him gliding through the room, and I kind of involuntarily just sprang out of my chair and thrust my hand in, and I just said, "It's just Miss Poitier. I'm so proud of it." And I was like a gibbering wreck, and he kind of looked at me, and he just kind of shook my hand and said, "Oh, thank you very much." And he was so grey and old, and I just thought, wow, this is an icon.
Yeah.
And for me to be in a room with all those guys, and it was just so exciting. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic clip.
The Golden Globes is full of those, but yeah, I had a moment with Morgan Freeman, which was lovely.
Did you keep it as cool as he did? In Sydney?
We hugged, you know.
What was great is that they all loved the show.
Yeah.
They all really loved the show. And it was exciting to kind of have people who you kind of put on a pedestal saying, "I just loved your work. I loved the show. I loved Homeland." So that was great.
I mean, last time I worked with Morgan Freeman, he flew to work. He just got his pilot's license, and he flew from Mississippi to Kamloops, Canada. He was so proud of it, his little twin-engine thing, and he just Then he had this bad car crash, which I'm sure a lot of you know about last year, and it really decimated his left arm. So he's now wearing a black glove, so he's now unable to fly his plane. Morgan told me that, and I'm now telling you.
And sorry, I put you off there. Finally, my final thing I was going to say was just about yummy, yummy, yummy.
You can't tell them that because they haven't. Obviously, they won't have seen that.
Well, I can't tell you where the name comes from.
That's the name of our house band.
But I can't believe they've got a house band that they play at the rap party. Which
We put a band together for the rap party.
I've got your set list if you want.
No surprises in there.
Should I stay or should I go?
It is on YouTube.
Classic.
White Wedding.
Singing.
Billy Idol. Must play Billy Idol.
In the Name of Love.
Yeah.
And Keep on Rocking in the Free World.
Yeah.
And you sing?
Well, I was the singer, but it doesn't mean I can sing. But I was singer and tambourine player. No, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we put together. Well, it just turns out Charlotte, North Carolina, where we filmed, got incredibly famous studios where REM cut records and Hootie and the Blowfish and various other people. And so there's quite a music scene down there. So we became friends with a producer, music producer, and we put together a band for the rap party, which we called Yummy Yummy Yummy. And if you watch the entire series, it will become clear to you why that's its name.
I'm going to go to Q&A now. Where's Roving Mike? Hello.
Roving Mike.
Hello. Do you want, oh. Fantastic, thank you. Hello.
I'm one of the oldest people in this room.
You're welcome.
It's nice to see all these talented young people. But I wanted to make a comment first and then a question, which is that I was involved in British television in the heyday, the great years, with some of the great geniuses. And at one time, there were so many fabulous programs being produced in drama in this country that we had to train up secretaries to be vision mixers and then to progress to be producers. Because I'm talking 30, 35 years ago. And every channel had unbelievably wonderful drama. So I think it is in our DNA here, for young people here. Just something stopped, I think, when Thatcher deregulated broadcasting and all the drama departments were shut. So all of you young people here, just get going with your ideas. But I have a question for you. This seems to have an Israeli connection. I saw it very quickly on the credits.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you had to read the book by the Israeli author before you took your roles.
There was an original series written by Gideon Raff for the Keshet network called HAYU, and it was broadly based on research he'd done that had come, the press were very onto it as well, about the way in which returning soldiers were treated when they came back to Israel, put in debriefing camps, and sometimes held from their families for long periods of time while they were interrogated, re-interrogated, in case any of them had sensitive information, or, you know, and obviously the sense was that people thought that they might have been turned in some way. And so it was a far more sort of political and social piece about returning soldiers. The 24 crowd, the 24 element of this is the CIA, which, you know, they sort of imposed on that original story. So they took the idea from it, but it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Oh. This is a cat. Please tell me when. Because I'll just keep going. No concept.
Can I just follow up on something that the two of you were talking about earlier, about exploring these little tributaries as an actor? There seems to be something that goes on in long-form television where the writers sometimes don't want the actors to know too much about their characters in advance, while of course as actors you want to know what sort of beats to play so that you're actually hitting those beats throughout the series. And I'm sort of curious, with Homeland in particular, did the writers / producers actually give you enough information about the characters at the beginning in order to play them through properly? Or, Damian, is it like, as you said, you're reading that next script and you go, oh crap, I didn't know I was heading in this direction?
different experiences on different jobs. Alex Gantz and Howard Gordon are unbelievably generous and collaborative, and they will tell you what you need to know, effectively. I had a long, involved conversation before I accepted the role from my hotel bedroom, the Midland Hotel in Manchester, I recommend it highly. I was there in the snow last year, just before Christmas, and when it became clear that they were asking me to play someone, a Marine, as great a symbol as anything, of someone who upholds our freedoms, goes to foreign climes to fight on our behalf in the name of our beliefs for a free society, when it was becoming clear that they wanted him possibly to embrace Allah and become a Muslim, which you won't have seen here, but there's the possibilities there. I'm not giving too much away. It was important for me that that was an active choice made by him, and that there wasn't a Manchurian candidate, sort of Manchurian candidate-esque sort of brainwashing that got on, because I thought that would cheapen it, and that it's far more subversive, far more interesting for him to have actively chosen another faith, especially being who he is and what he represents. And they were happy to have long and engaged conversations about that, and you'll see later whether they remain true to their word or not. But they're happy to discuss the fundamentals like that. And as I said earlier, and I think David said as well, sometimes it's just nice not to know everything, because that's part of the spontaneity of working in this form of drama.
Oh, hello.
A question for Damian, in fact, two-part question.
How are you? You're right.
Oh, well, how are you?
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. One is just to follow on from that last question. So you're saying to us that you were kept in the dark. Were you about the nature of your character's background and what he did when he was in the Middle East? Are you saying that when you started filming, you weren't sure whether he'd been turned or not? And as a second question, well, answer the first question first, if you like.
Well, we need to make a distinction between being turned and being a Muslim. I had said, I will not accept this role if there are lazy and easy parallels drawn between violence and Islam. So the choice he makes, if he chooses to convert, that's different. And if that's a positive choice and a force for good, and it's a nurturing and sustaining thing in his life, then that's a choice in a positive direction. If he's turned, radicalized, and turned into a jihadist, that's something else. So it was left that initially any decisions made initially would be positive ones. Whether the well is poisoned or not, you'll have to wait and find out.
As a supplementary, did you meet anybody that had been through the kind of experience your character goes through in terms of having been incarcerated?
I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of. I met people at a unit somewhere near Stroud, people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The most revealing and helpful source material that I found anywhere was Brian Keenan's An Evil Cradling, which I read first time round, and it's still as brilliant the second time round. It's because it's so psychological, he writes so well, you really get a sense of his mental state, and for an actor, it was very helpful behaviourally.
We totally lost the mic. There you go. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. I've seen you both on stage at the National
She's better.
You were great. You were great. What I was thinking about is you were on stage doing like pretty big long run, and then you went into doing this kind of thing. How do you feel about the difference between stage work, television work, especially in the US with HBO and Showtime, which are doing some of the most interesting TV shows right now? Do you have a favorite one? Do you prefer the stage, the TV?
I love stage work. I mean, I love rehearsals. I love finding out characters. I love discovering a character and then playing it. And I have to say, I think that playing Estes was difficult because he wasn't complete. As much as they could tell me about his character, as much as they could you know, what he was up to, explain what his thoughts were. I didn't know it, as I said, until the very end. So it's a difficult process. But having kind of played those couple of scenes in the second to last episode and the last episode, I really feel as though I know him now. So I almost consider that whole series as a rehearsal for my character. So I'm really looking forward to going back and just really knowing him and really.
I'm really lucky it got picked up.
Yeah. I just had no reference points to this guy. You know, he was a kind of a CIA operative, and then they're shaming people at the best of times. I read a lot of books about the CIA, and as much as I couldn't get any personality in this guy, and he's very procedural in most of the early parts of the series. Comes in, he says X and says Y, and then this disappears. And I couldn't make him interesting. And I kept trying to make him interesting, and then I thought to myself, I'm just going to forget making him interesting. I'm just going to play the scene and just hope it all comes together. And I think gradually throughout the series, it does come together. And it was a bit uncomfortable, but
play the scene, not the character.
Yeah, just do it. Just don't try and overcomplicate it. So it was an uncomfortable experience, but I'm glad that I went through it because now I know who he is.
We've got time for another one. Hello.
First I have to congratulate you and well done. And I just have to ask you this question because of my wife. She is Iraqi. And the question is, we have seen a lot on the television about Abu Ghraib prison and what was happening in Abu Ghraib prison. But in doing your research, have you met anybody who was prisoner in Iraqi prison or something like that? You know, was prisoned by the Iraqis, not by the Americans. And you know, the same part you are playing. Have you met somebody in real life?
No, not from an Iraqi prison. I did come across some research and was able to meet someone who'd been in Mukhbarak in Amman, which is also not a nice place to be. But no, I haven't, is the short answer.
Thank you. Because the conversation will go from here to our home.
What I would say to you though, if there's any if there's any worry on your part that there wouldn't be a true broad representation of Muslims and people from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, in fact we touch on. This is a liberal show, no question. It's left of centre, and it points fingers at state governments as well as terrorist groups. And I think as you watch the series and as it progresses, you'll see there's a particularly intriguing episode where it's set in a mosque. I won't spoil it for you, but I think that issue is dealt with sympathetically, and I hope they continue to deal with it sympathetically. Yeah.
Mike. Last question. Hello.
Mr. Lewis, to what extent, if at all, do you think the producers were influenced in casting you by the fact that you played such a wonderful all-American hero in Band of Brothers?
It had nothing to do with it whatsoever. They're two very different roles. Yes, they're two American soldiers, but that was a celebration of soldiering, heroism, an old-fashioned kind of heroism, and charting the deeds of Easy Company as they liberated Europe. I think I got that role because Major Winters was a rather old-fashioned type of hero, and they couldn't find anyone that was sort of stiff and old-fashioned enough in America, so they got me. And I think they always felt that they might cast an English actor, actually, for that, interestingly, for that reason. This, actually, I got this role because of a film I made called Keen, which deals with grief and a mental breakdown. And so they were far more interested in that aspect of the character than they were in him being a US Marine. And as you can tell, it's after the